counting them. I was going to say counting them down. I think we're counting up in this case. 32-1 is where we are going here with the NFL power rankings. And we start the way we always do with the Carolina Panthers. They're bad. Moving on, we have a new team, second last, in the Tennessee Titans. They get just absolutely worked over by the Detroit Lions, and any hope that this team was going to have somewhat of a resurgence or anything feels like it has gone a while ago now. It is a time to start over out in Tennessee, and start over they must, because this is going very badly for them. They come in at 31. At 30, it's the Patriots that get a win over the New York Jets. Congratulations. I'm still not buying into anything you're selling at all. At 29, it is the Vegas Raiders. I do think that they played about as well as you could expect them to play against the Kansas City Chiefs, but not well enough to get out of the bottom five. And at 28, it is the Cleveland Browns. And so again, just a quick little pause. If this is how the draft order ends up, which obviously this isn't entirely based on standings, but still, if this is how the draft order stacks up, Carolina drafting a quarterback one, I continue to believe would be a mistake, and I continue to believe would just keep them in this perpetual cycle that they are in with having a young quarterback, not having anything around him. Oh, wow, young quarterback can't drag this completely lifeless carcass across to a playoff game. Well, it must be the quarterback's fault, and they don't address the lifeless carcass part that is this roster. This is a very, very, very bad roster, and so I do think that this is a team that needs to do what Chicago did with them. And if they get that first overall pick, package it for a bunch of shit and try to rebuild it that way. At 31, it's the Tennessee Titans. So yeah, get a quarterback. For sure get a quarterback, I think. I think that they have done a decent job of putting up the rest of the foundation, but it's just Will Levis is not processing this game at the speed that he needs to. At 30, it's New England. There isn't a hope in hell they would be drafting a quarterback, that this would be their opportunity to help solidify some things around Drake May. At 29, it's the Raiders. I think they would be probably drafting a quarterback in this particular spot, and I think that that's probably the right move for them. And then the Cleveland one is always fascinating. We talk about it the last couple of weeks. You could cut Deshaun Watson, take just the biggest amount of dead money that any team ever has, but then have the quarterback on the rookie contract, and all of a sudden you're just kind of paying an average amount for your quarterbacks. You don't necessarily get the benefit of the cap savings with the young quarterback, but you get the upside of not having Deshaun Watson anymore. So that would be that. Coming at 27, it's Miami. It looked a little bit better this week, but still not much in losing to Arizona. At 26, it is Jacksonville. Again, a couple injuries now really kind of sting, and it feels like Doug Peterson on his last legs out there. Sorry, Deeds, I didn't see this before. If anyone wants to know who is going to underachieve this week in fantasy football, I'll share my lineup, and you can see who not to have in LOL. Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough go there, Deeds. That's that is for sure, losing in the battle to Toxic here last week. But Toxic was going to beat anyone in that game, so at least you didn't waste a disappointing week on that one, at least. At 25, it is the Giants. I kind of want to get them lower, but I still think they're playing a touch better just because of that defense than Jacksonville and Miami. At 24, it's the Colts. They are the perpetual shoulder shrug emoji team. Them and the Rams, who come up with a good win against Minnesota on Thursday night. Maybe that is a sign of things to come with how this offense can look now that everyone is healthy. We will see how long everyone stays healthy, and we will see off of Thursday night. I mean, the Jets looked good on a Thursday nighter a couple weeks ago, and they've barely won since. So, yeah. At 22, it is the Chicago Bears. That's a tough loss to take, but it is tough to erase 59 and a half minutes of some pretty good football by them. At 21, it's the Jets. They plummet down here after a loss to New England. I am done trying to pretend to take this team seriously. They are just so flawed right now. Ditto for the Dallas Cowboys at number 20. Just again, a very flawed roster, and one that is also expensive and not well coached. All good signs for the Cowboys. At 19, it is Tampa Bay. Some injury issues, maybe starting to have that stock plummet down a little bit. At 18, it's New Orleans. Again, kind of the same thing. Injury issues has really gotten in the way of what was a bit of an intriguing start to the year. At 17, it is Cincinnati. Speaking of shoulder shrug emoji teams, I can't figure these guys out for the life of me. 1 week, the offense looks like they've got it back on track. The next week, they can't do anything. 1 week, the defense looks like it's figured it out. The next week, they've been figured out and they get stomped on. So I cannot solve this Cincinnati team. I think it is best to assume that they are just going forward. At 16, it's the Chargers. A tough loss against Arizona. They bounce back with the dominant performance against, again, a roster that, when beat up, is one of the worst in the sport in New Orleans. At 15, it is Arizona, the I can't quit these guys team, coming off of a big win over Miami. A win over the team that I have at 27th shouldn't move you up the rankings as much as it did, but again, I just can't quit Arizona. At 14, I have to at least bite the bullet a little bit and go with the Denver Broncos. They continue, even if it is against not great teams, they continue to put up great results, as annoying as that is. So I don't think Bo Nix is this good. I don't think Sean Payton's this good, but I can't argue with the results at this point. At 13, it is Seattle. That was another humbling loss that Seattle has taken this year, and just kind of a sign that when they face the tippity top of the NFL, they prove time and again that they aren't there. At 12, it is Atlanta. We kind of know what they are at this point. A defense that can play well against bad offenses, but not so well against good ones, and an offense that can put up some points. At 11, it's Pittsburgh. Again, this is one where I hate to take this seriously, but Russell Wilson's looked pretty good for a couple of weeks in a row. And stealing from the fantasy footballers, to look at the NBA Jam rules, 3 in a row and he's on fire. So we'll see what he can do in the Steelers' next game. At 10, it's Houston. They drop down. Even with a win, they drop down because of the Stephon Diggs injury. Those are just piling up on an offense that didn't need help in struggling this year. At 9, it is Green Bay. Again, injuries a concern with Jordan Love, but even then, it has not looked as good for the Packers this season. At 8, it is Minnesota. It's like, the losses down at the bottom don't punish you as much because there's a lot of whatever, but the good teams are starting to separate themselves a little bit, and so for Minnesota to drop a decision like that on Thursday does kind of set them back here. At 7, it is the San Francisco 49ers. Now that everyone's getting healthy, this is starting to look like a good football team again. At 6, it is Washington. Again, we have to believe that there's something magical going on with the Commanders. At 5, it is Baltimore. The second, they have probably like 2 of the 3 worst losses in the NFL this year. But again, a couple of the best. They looked the best in a loss of any team, I think, this year in opening night against Kansas City. And they looked the best of any team has looked at any point this year when they beat up on the Buffalo Bills. At 4, it is Philadelphia. I said before, I'm not going to let myself get bought back in. And now here they are at 4. But you look at some of the wins they have and how dominant they looked in the last couple of weeks. I think power rankings wise, you have to move them up. At 3, it is Buffalo. Offensively, they have Amari Cooper around, and they have been able to put up a few pretty big numbers here on offense. Defense, I still think they need to make a move to address that, but offensively, they've got this figured out. At 2, it's Detroit. They have really got this figured out, and that is the sign to Jamison Williams, who I believe in the talent of, but obviously, there's some behavior that's not great and something going on there. And so this was a very quick reminder of, hey, kid, like, yeah, you got some talent. We done this without you, and we can keep doing it without you. So smarten up. And at number 1, they are the number 1 team in all the land. They are the Kansas City Chiefs. Defensively, one of the best in the league. Offensively, they have one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time, and they just keep winning. So they just keep staying at number 1 in the NFL power rankings.